Well, I've turned around and it's still not any better really, so I think we're just going to have to go with it. So we've done the sky, then we did the boat. This is lovely and dry now. The sea is nearly dry. The distant mountains. I'm loving this little sort of blending of the indigo and the greeny sort of tealy colour in it, and these little white marks. So quite pleased with that so far. So I have changed my water because it was quite blue, and obviously I don't really want blue all over the beach, so I'm going to lay the beach in. So this was the colour that we used for the inside of the boat, and whilst I want that to echo, I do want the beach to be a little bit different, so I'm going to just add a little bit of burnt sienna into that mix to warm it up a little bit. If you haven't got any burnt sienna, you could just use a touch of cadmium red light, and that's making like a browny sort of colour. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Naples yellow. Now I've only got this in a tube. Now it's beautifully translucent, is Naples yellow, which is what I want for the beach. So I've just added a blob, and I'm just going to mix that in to keep its translucency. Okay, might not look a lot different, but it will be, because it's going to be beautiful. And I'm just going to paint the edge of the beach in that sort of browny colour, because I want that contrast, and I'm going to just paint up the sand dunes, and I'm going to paint, so this is still the browny colour. Now with the brush, and I'm going to get just some yellow ochre now, which is much more golden colour. And I'm just adding that into that beach wash, leaving the light around the boat as much as possible. I will put that darker around there. So it's got a sense of the texture of the beach. Those of you that know me well will know that I don't like these little bits, so I just use a thirsty brush. So that's a brush that I've washed off. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of bluey grey, the colour that we used for the distant mountains, into this foreground whilst it's damp, just for an extra bit of tone in that foreground. And it blends a bit of harmony. And just run some of it along the beach. Could be where the seaweed is, or And it's time to just let that dry a little bit. Okay, it's time to have a go at this boat. So I'm going into this beachy colour. I'm going to add some burnt sienna to make a very light wash of a orangey brown, but you could make your boat whatever colour you want. And I'm using my little number 4 brush now because I just want that little bit more control. So I'm going down the side of this, and it's a very light underwash. And then I'm just going to swap to my bigger brush, my bigger mop brush, because it's a bigger space now. I don't want the streaks. And try and just follow the line. There we go. That's fine for now. So we're going to let that dry. Whilst we're letting that dry, we're going to put the sand dunes on. So same colour, a little brush. I'm just going to put the base of those sand dunes on, running them up. And while it's still wet, this was my sky colour. So blues, just to add a little bit of shadow work into that bank. And maybe some starts of those grasses. I'm just going to add into that sky colour a little bit more magenta to make it a bit purplier. And I'm just going to put another layer of shadow on there, trying to sort of get the shape of the bank. And we'll come back to that. In a while. Just going to let that dry a little bit before I come in with some just burnt sienna. Just letting it just take the shine off. And a little bit of burnt sienna. And I'm going to put a little bit of raw umber or yellow ochre and burnt sienna together. So It's a bit like a single cream consistency. I'm just going to leave some of that sandy colour. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of my neutral tint, or any brown really, and a touch of ultramarine, a nice dark brown colour. This is, while it's still wet, I'm just dragging those grass shapes out of. So I've got paint on my brush and I'm just dragging some sand dune grass shapes up. Just going to put a few seed heads on some. Just really for added interest. Adding a little bit more blue into my mix to make an even darker brown. Really good way of darkening browns, and I'm going to drop that in at the foreground here to build some lots of different shapes of grasses. And again, you can do as much or as little as you want with this, but make sure your grasses go lots of different ways, and try not to hold your paintbrush too near the tip, because otherwise that you sort of end up grasping at control. And then I'm going to let that dry and then add a few more. Whilst I'm here, I'm just going to put a bit of a blob here and put some as if these are coming out of maybe a sand dune up here. And just whilst I've got that brown on the brush, I think I might put a few pebbles and stones and sort of interesting marks around. Just in the foreground. Loaded my brush up. I'll mask that off with a bit of paper. Oh, pickle. Forgot that wasn't dry. Never mind. We can come back to that. Let it dry. Just put some splatter down here. A little bit of splatter always helps. I'm just going to take those off there though, because I didn't want them all about. That's fine. Watercolour is quite forgiving, really. So I better let that dry before I wreck anything else. So this is dry and that's dry. So I'm going to work some darker browns into the boat. So I'm going to use this dark brown that I've got on my palette already. So this is with my number 4 brush, run it across. I'm going to put. So take the paint off, take a little bit of water off, and then just rub it into the wash. If you haven't got enough water on you, you'll know, but if you don't want it swimming either. So I want to line this side of this bench. Just softening that edge away. And you start very gradually to see things building. So I'm wanting that to look like a seat and that to look like a back. If we just work gradually, so I'm going to go under there and under there. So just layering up ever so gradually under the edges. Very light washes. So it's a bit of negative painting because you're leaving gaps of what was already there in order to start seeing. So I'll mix up because I've run out of that. Mix another set of that together. So yellow ochre, a little bit of burnt sienna and some ultramarine for a nice brown. I want this brown to go darker, so I'm going to run that into there. Plenty of water on my brush and just soften it away into the space. I'm going to just add a touch more ultramarine straight into that to darken it even more. Darkening that back edge. Push it away. So this is something that I do over a little bit of time. Darkening, push it away, darkening, push it away. Put that brown onto there as well, so that the seat sits down. Hopefully you're seeing how builds up. So I just added a little bit of ultramarine into this so that we can start building this shadow up. So I'm building the sections of the boat. Section by section, just softening them away, pushing back into that, it just builds depth. And it's these layers that are beautiful in watercolour. I'm going to run a dark around there because I want that to be trapped in the dark so that we can see that edge of the boat. So we're starting to see the edge of this boat. Go darker, so more ultramarine. Because this is the belly, the bottom of the boat. I'm going to put some on there as well. That should have gone across there, so I'm just going to lift a bit out. Fresh water, clean brush, and a little bit of brown across there. Hopefully we've got that sense of an edge coming here and an edge coming there. Now, lots of patience, just work it. Okay, so I'm going to put some burnt sienna and some red together, some cadmium red for a reddy orangey quite bright colour for this boat. So I'm going to do each plank at a time. Just leaving a little bit of that base colour in between each plank. And I'm just going to add to that top plank whilst it's still drying. I'm just going to add a little bit of that browny ultramarine colour, because I just want to darken it a little bit. Just wash my brush out. I'm just going to tease that along a little bit in a bit of a mottled effect. And I just want to run a bit of a shadow along that edge as well. There we go for now. Right, back into our sort of bright orangey colour. Oops, sorry if you're getting a bit seasick from watching, because I'm wobbling the table. Just going to add a little bit more pigment into that, so a little bit more of a contrast while it's still damp. You're fine. Remember, you can always go back in to add more, because you can just do a light wash over the top. Whereas it's more difficult to take things away. We're not finished with the boat yet. So just well done nicely. Add in a little bit of this shadow colour as you go, to just so it doesn't look too clean and tidy, as if it's never been out anywhere. I'm going to do this keel all in one colour afterwards. It's just a bit of that shadow colour. And a bit of that shadow colour here. I'm just going to wash it away. So, that's not bad, is it? We've got this drying nicely, yeah. So I can go back and put a bit more detail into that after I did a bit of a splurge. This is drying okay. We've got something that's starting to look like a boat. So for this, I'm just going to drop bright, because the light's coming from this side. And then I'm going to add a little bit more ultramarine into the mix to do a darker side. I'm going to run that down there, and then I'm going to put that darker edge onto here. I'm just going to soften that into that wash. Plenty of water. Try not to get it over there. We've started to build our boat. Oopsie daisy. So, this is that really bright one that we put down the front, and I'm going to just put some highlights on here. There's a bit of a glaze, just to get a bit more richness of colour. So that's just the same colour, lots of water. I'm just adding a little bit of magenta now to make like a burgundy reddy colour, because I'm going to add that as a shadow colour glaze. All the way along there. And then under. A bit more magenta in. And a little bit of ultramarine to make a really dark burgundy colour in that mix. Still plenty of water in there because it's a glaze, it's not, we're not painting with it per se. There we go, nice. And I'm just going to put this shadow on as if there's something there, and then I'm going to drop that same shadow colour into this part of the painting, glazing that. Don't want to fuss too much with the boat, otherwise it could end up a bit more of a mess. I need to leave that to dry. So I'm still using this lovely rich shadow colour. I'm going to go into here because I've got it, just to add a bit of extra colour into there. And I think we better leave that just to dry off a little bit. So this is near enough dry. There's a little bit that's not dry there, but I want to carry on adding some darker touches. So putting a bit more magenta into here and ultramarine to make a really dark purple, and then I'm going to add some burnt sienna into there, which will make a lush sort of dark purpley brown. Rigger brush time, because we're going to go under that. And then I'm going to go down these planks a little bit. I've washed my rigger brush, and then I'm just going to soften that into the wash. So I want really sort of gentle lines. I don't want a line. Before you do this, you must make sure that your painting's dry enough, because otherwise you just disturb that bottom section and you can't glaze over the top. So just ever so slightly, you just need a bit of patience and a little bit at a time. And you build up these little edges. And then I'm just going to run the same shadow colour down here. And I just want a bit of a darker shadow running across here. Quite like that one. So let's see if we can just get a little bit more definition on that edge. I want to trap a little bit of colour on the edge of that, so that we can, so I'm leaving the gap. And then I'm going to wash my brush and then just soften that away into the paper. Just trapping the light a little bit to make the edge of that bow, because otherwise you couldn't see it. I'm going to do the same along here. A little bit of dark I'm going to add on to here. Just blend it in. And then I'm going to just run a dark line along here. Water and blend it in. I'm going to add a bit more dark here because I want to trap the light. Okay, so back to our big brush, and we are going to add some shadow colour. I'm going to use this sort of shadow colour that we have, but I'm going to add some Payne's Grey and some indigo into it with a little bit of magenta. It's quite a strong purpley dark blue, because the shadow is going to make this quite watery. Brave girl time, because the shadows are always scary. And we're going to put a shadow right across here. Across here, and then across here, load up shadow a little bit darker under the boat, so I'm just dropping in a little bit of Payne's Grey under the base of the boat. And then I'm going to drop some more Payne's Grey around here and bring that shadow across the side. Back to my original shadow colour. Okay, it needs to go, I think, around here. Because it's watery, you can drop it in and then you can also take it out, which is beautiful. Remember, it dries 30% lighter, so don't be afraid. Now my lights died, but hopefully you can see the colours a little bit better. Certainly that shadow contrast just going to let that dry off a little bit, and then I'm going to add a little bit more drops of colour into the shadow. So I'm just rolling some shadow colour, really watery, down there. Just to get that sort of idea that there's a bank or something going on here. And see how I've just dropped in some darker tones into there. I might drop a little bit of magenta in actually, just as straight from the palette. It's still wet, so you can play a little bit with that. I'm just going to run a line of very pale wash here. I'm just going to smooth it away into the sand. And then again, it's up to you how much you want to play with these planks on the bow and getting that tonal value change that you're after. I try not to sort of overdo. The work on it. Lastly, I'm going to get some lamp black and then put it into that burgundy colour, and maybe a touch of ultramarine because I like it. So this is going to be my rigger brush. So lamp black or Payne's grey, a touch of ultramarine, makes that a bluey, blacky colour. And I'm going to just run some cables as if it's tethered somewhere off the beach. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glasses in shadow into here, because I think I lost them when I did a bit of a splurge. Not too many, I just want to have that sense of some shadow grasses. Whoops. And this is the point where I have to make myself stop fiddling, because if I'm not careful, I overwork it and it loses the freshness. and it's the freshness that is so nice about watercolour for me. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching this, probably in 2 parts because of uploading speeds around here, and that you will like and subscribe and comment and be encouraging, because this is how I spend my energy, I think, painting and creating, because I love it. I love how the watercolour works together to create something that looks 3-dimensional of what is a 2-dimensional plane. And then it brings joy to other people quite often, because people like looking at the pictures, but they also purchase them on my Etsy shop or on my folksy shop, and that is great because that lets me buy more art materials. So if you can support me on my folksy shop or on my Etsy shop, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you if you've had a go at painting one of my paintings. That would be really, really nice to see how you've done, and I hope you've enjoyed this free tutorial, and I hope you give it a go because it's fun. So on this very snowy December day, where I've had a broken light, I've got a husband that's coughing like mad. I hope you've enjoyed being with me. So, as I said, like, subscribe, follow, whatever you do. I don't know, my grandson reminds me to do all of that. And hopefully you'll have a fun time playing with whatever you enjoy painting. So I'm now fiddling and I need to stop, but I'm enjoying it. So I probably won't for a little minute, but you get the drift of what I'm doing. Have fun. Enjoy your watercolour. Right, I've stopped there. I'm going to cut a little bit of my Dr. Martens white bleed proof on. Just going to add a little bit to this shoreline, although I do quite like how the wax has worked for it, so I don't want a lot because I think it would spoil it, but I will just break up that. And run a little bit up the beach. I always put it in the lid, I don't know why, I suppose it's a bit like a palette. So I'm going to just use a little bit just to highlight on these edges where maybe I should have just protected that light a little bit more. too much. I'll just wash my wigger brush out and I'm just going to soften that across the front of there. Right, and I'm going to probably call that a day. So, it's drying nicely. You know what it's time to do? It's time to take off the tape. Remember, always peel the tape away from you. It's probably my favourite bit, peeling the tape off. And always peel it away from your painting. I think we are a nice little boat. At the moment we're painting quite a few boats. Then I tend to sign my work with my ink, so I hope you've enjoyed that time. A little boat on the beach, just doing its thing.